am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, former White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days, Donald Trump. This week on the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, to impeach or not to convict? That is the question. And are there any noble minds left in the Republican Party? To keep the Shakespeare metaphor going, to err as human, but for the President of the United States to commit bribery, extortion, and obstruction of justice and get away with it in normal times would be unforgivable. But there is nothing normal about these times. Weeks of hearings, hours of testimony. Exactly where are we on the impeachment train? Let's get started. We begin. So, good afternoon, or wherever we are at this point, Matt. My eyes, my ears, my heart, my soul. I have to say, I have had my entire focus this week on these hearings. I probably gained 10 pounds. As I told you last night, I ran out of popcorn. That's bad. That was very bad. But here we are. And
that's your preferred snack for impeachment.
When I'm on a diet,
popcorn.
That's my diet preferred snack. That's no bad stuff in it. No salt, no butter,
that's very disciplined.
Very disciplined, because I was like wanting to eat a whole pie, which is my favorite thing in the whole world to eat. Anybody who knows me,
I heart pie.
Yeah, there you go. But this they've closed it down now. I'm assuming they don't want to call it. The Democrats don't want to call any more witnesses at the moment. That's where we are. But let me
to be where we're at.
Let me throw this out at you. The president did it. Only question now was,
well, let's define just for the sake
I'm
of
just going
listeners.
I'm going to throw this out, and then we'll go back.
Let's define it when you can.
The president committed, for lack of we could go quid pro quo. We can go down, he extorted. We could go down the bribery route. Do all the above. I don't think that's even a question. I think the Democrats have the goods. So here's where I am on it, Matt. Only question now is what are they going to do with it? Because the Republicans, listen to what I'm going to say to you, they seem to be in search of a narrative. The Dems have the narrative, and they're in a search of a way to convince Republicans this is the narrative. They've won the legal argument, the Dems. I have to say, I don't think there's even any question there. But here's where you and I need to talk. Impeachment's a political proceeding.
Sure.
And I don't think they did, here's an old term, squat to make the political case. And that is why I have gained 5 pounds and gone through pounds of my popcorn and ready to tear the hair out of my head, because they were so brilliant on the one hand, and as Dems are wont to do, so bad on the other. Let me throw it out to you. You talk. You tell us what you're thinking overall.
Well, I agree with you that I think they established that the president sought foreign interference in the 2020 campaign by asking the Ukrainians, in all but direct words, to launch an investigation into the Bidens, or he would deny them various things they sought, including a meeting with the president, the vice president attending the inauguration of the Ukrainian leader, and most importantly, military aid, which Congress had approved and which Trump had signed. I mean, Trump was not only undermining Congress's wanting to give this military aid to Ukraine, he signed the bill. So he was undermining his own policy in search of help for his election. I believe they established that clearly. And I don't think they created a narrative that there was any other, that this was just Trump wanting a general and Ukrainian diligence on corruption issues, which have stymied the Ukrainians in the past. I think it's clear that they were meeting their fiduciary duty in terms of rooting out corruption. The Pentagon, the State Department attested to that. This was clearly aimed just at one company that had Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, on the board. So I agree with you. I think they made the case pretty clearly, and they made it most effectively with the Trump appointee, Ambassador Sondland, our ambassador to the European Union, and with John Bolton's very hawkish deputy for Russia affairs, in the White House. So I think, as well as the career State Department and others and Defense Department officials who testified. So I agree with you. I think they made the case. Did they sway more of the country, or did they sway any Republican colleagues? I don't think so, but I'm not sure how movable much more of the country is, or certainly the Republicans in Congress, who seem, just all willing to march in lockstep with the president. I mean, there was, and I agree with you entirely that I think the Republicans were in search of a narrative. They kind of went with everything. He did it, but so what if he did it? He didn't do it. He never asked for a quid pro quo. These people are all liars who saddle it anyway. I mean, they really went with everything. And look, I think we discussed this last week. I think there might be an argument that this was bad but not impeachable. I don't think there's
no. You tell me. That's their line. I mean, Will Hurd at the end of it all, who was the one who was supposedly the most movable, partly because he's leaving Congress.
Right.
Went with the old, this is, would I have done this? No. Is this right that he did this? No. Blah, 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 blah. But it's not impeachable. That is, I don't agree. I don't agree with him. Do you agree with him? I don't agree.
No, I don't agree with him either. I'm just saying that's like the best they got.
Okay. Right. Okay. So can we take this back then to what we're talking about here, which is two things. One, I don't think the Dems should be done at the moment, because I think that they need to hammer this home. And one of their avenues of continuing to hammer it home while they are themselves in search of a way to break through the Republicans is to keep hammering it home. Now, there is a point where it can get to be too much. I certainly agree with that. But I want to tell you today, there's a new star in town. If she was born in the United States, I mean, to my mind, it's almost like worth redoing the Constitution. This Fiona Hill was extraordinary. She was startling. She was so brilliant, so measured, so clear, so attacked them. They at the end, man, if you were watching, they just gave up. They didn't even bother to ask her questions because they knew they were up against something that was, not something they were going to ever beat down. There could be more of her out there. There are other things that could bubble up. Now, it was pointed out to me, and you may know this, which I don't know, was that even if they do shut down, as they appear to have been done now, these hearings, that they can still continue to investigate.
Sure.
On the side. And I don't know how you play that publicly, but they can certainly be doing that. But again, anything on the side, Matt, is what I'm talking about. They need a fight in the public eye to convince the public. So before I get into convincing the public versus, and remind me, I said this, versus convincing Congress, the Republicans, what else could they do in terms of of that? How else do they keep that in front of the cameras on the table as everybody's eating Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, you could continue the hearings. I mean, you want to continue them as long as you've got a show to put on. And there are other things you could do. You could try to get more of the people who had firsthand or secondhand knowledge of the events in question. You could have hearings about the situation in Ukraine, how dire it is, and how important it is to the U.S. that Ukraine be able to defend itself from Russia, and what Putin has planned for that region. I mean, look, his ambitions have not ended in terms of territory in that area. You could have hearings on that, hearings on other things Putin is doing to thwart elections in Europe and elsewhere. Okay. So you asked me what they could do.
Well, here's where I am on in what you're saying. Sure, you can do all of that, but this is about, I'm going to use this word, go with me for a second on it. This is about sexy. This has to be sexy. This has to be, oh my God. They have to have something to seduce the voters. And then let me go back to what we were talking about. Brilliantly, you said, what's going to move the Republican congressman? or the senators, and what's going to move the voting public. Now, the polls are interesting with the voting public because it appears that they are thinking this guy did something really, 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 really bad. I'm surprised, in fact, over how strong it's polling for the guy, meaning Trump, should be either impeached or at best, raked over the coals, if not lose his job. And that's including people in the center, obviously, and even some MAGAs. If the numbers at 70-something% are as high as most of the polls are kind of zooming in on. But how this is, like I said, I was just right before we went on air. I was watching MSNBC, and I'm watching the talking heads, nuts like you and I, who love all this and watch it, and digest it and spit it out and do what we do. And the naivete was just extraordinary on the part of the Democrats on the panel, because they're going, "Oh yeah, they'll convince them." No. The Republicans are not going to do the right thing unless you force them into doing the right thing. And that's the piece that I want to know. How do you force them into? They need to hire Dick Cheney, evil Dick. He knows how to do this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Democrats don't know how to do it.
Well, it's, I'd say a couple of things. First, I wouldn't draw a big distinction between swaying the public and swaying Republicans.
You sway the
Congress. You sway the public,
right? Then you sway the Republicans,
and you might have a chance of swaying some Republicans.
So that's why I said it had to be sexy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd like to be 50 pounds lighter too, but I don't know. I don't quite know how to do it. I don't know what the sexy thing is.
Well, I think I bring that up because it becomes a political discussion for you and I to have, or for anybody who's talking about what the hell is going on here. And it's not what people usually go down the road to have, because it is, I think, at the core of what the problem right now is between the Democrats and the Republicans, and why the Republicans have so owned everything with Trump. Now, if they hired Trump or Roger Stone, who soon is going to have nothing to do but twiddle his thumbs, and make license plates, it seems to me that's the problem that the Dems have right now. Like I said, as I started this, they've got the narrative. They need to have, how do they make that narrative, an impeachable offense, kind of thing. And I think that's a problem in the Democratic Party, and they need to hire somebody to help them do this. I think they could do it if they had the right people.
But you're not really saying what that is. I mean, do you have any ideas what they should say, do?
I kind of do. First of all, they always put the same talking heads out there, and I think that needs to change. That's number one. They need to do that. The Democrats don't have what the Republicans have, and that is they don't have all these radio stations, and all they have left is MSNBC maybe, and partly CNN. So therein lies an issue. But they've shut you've got all these people campaigning, going out on the trail, and they're not even letting them talk about it, as we'll talk about in a minute. Why not?
Wait, they're not letting presidential candidates talk about it?
No, it's my understanding that you go to any of these things in Iowa, and the last thing they're talking about right now is impeachment.
Well, that's not because they're taking orders from Nancy Pelosi.
No, I think they are taking orders.
Okay, so you think they're avoiding it because it's not
they're afraid
popular with the primary voters, and they just think it's toxic?
I think they think it's toxic, and they're playing it safe. But
would the world be would Democrats be much better off if, Pete Buttigieg was talking more about
yes, and
Ukraine?
Let me tell you why. Not Ukraine so much, but let's throw this argument out, okay? The whole premise of Joe Biden's campaign is, I'm an upstanding, decent guy, and I'm going to bring you back to decency. That should be everybody in the Democratic Party, from Buttigieg to Amy. And so
that was big in the debate last night. I'm going to bring us together. I'm going to be decent. Trump's a criminal.
But how much did they really spend on impeachment in that whole conversation? Hardly anything.
Not that much.
Right. So I'm saying that there you go. There are people that that you can put out on the stump who can spread the word a little bit, into the corridors where it needs to be spread, where, the radio was dominated by the conservatives and not by the Democrats. So that's a place that could do it. I also think that they do have to put on new and different talking heads, and they need to find a star. And this Fiona Hill would be a perfect person to start putting out there on the talking circuit.
Well, she's
retired now, didn't she?
Well, she's not a Democrat, and she's not.
But she is very much against what's going on.
Well, if she wants to go on TV, she's going to get to go on TV.
Well, what I'm saying is that's what I'm saying is they need to start recruiting some new, bigger, more important, more powerful speakers, and that's something that they could do. They have a couple of weeks to be playing this game to start putting some of these people in.
Well, right? I don't disagree
it's a PR
with you,
game.
but
it's a PR
But it's
game.
Like saying, put on a hit Broadway show that gets the highest box office returns.
Well, there are a lot of companies that's what they do for a living. These big PR firms in New York and Washington. But
well, there is a whole consultant class that they're paying that's not doing any better, but I don't know who the genius is that's gonna.
I would go to Hollywood quietly.
I feel like we've had this conversation before that like the Democrats aren't doing enough, and I say what should they be doing, and you say
you
they
think I've
should
said
be
this before. Well, I don't.
Coming up with someone who's great.
Well, I think that I tell you what, I think that they shouldn't be sending out somebody like who I adore, and I think he did an amazing job, and I think you have to applaud Adam Schiff. My God, he really did a phenomenal job, I think. But that's not the person to send out.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because he's too... he needs somebody who can seduce the other side. You need somebody who can seduce the other side. But that's what I'm saying. So that's where we are right now. They made the case. They did it brilliantly. Here it is. And the Republicans don't give a crap. And that's pretty upsetting to me as an American citizen and patriot. Well, there's an ugly sound. What was that behind you?
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I'm not sure what that was, but
that was scary. But
sorry.
Yeah, that's right. But so that's where I am. So again, and there were some stars that I think that the Dems made in their own party, though. I mean, like Denny Heck. What a cool kind of grandpa-ish kind of.
Yeah. He was good.
I thought he just was measured, and he was terrific, and avuncular and not threatening. He was great. Sean Mahoney was terrific too. I don't know but they've been putting him out there. But
I thought he was a little hot myself.
Well, he was hot that one moment.
He was a little hot,
but he's cute and he's sexy, and
he
appeals
got
to women. He's got that.
No, he's got that.
That thing. That thing he's got,
right?
Whatever the it is. So maybe they were
right. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So they create stars like this, and I'm gonna say it, and I'm trying because I don't want to get you angry.
You know what get me angry?
Yes, I will.
You want sexy. You want stars. You want.
No, I was gonna go with Elise Stefanik and my nickname for her, and I thought I better not do that because the next line is "You're so sexist."
What's your line?
Well, I have a new word for all these crazy women who are sticking with him. I call them Trump's tarts. They're the TTs. That's who they are. They're selling their souls. I mean, our good friend who you brought up last week, ambassador to the UN.
Nikki Haley. Yeah.
There's this. There are these, and what's her name from Tennessee? She's another one who plays it with him.
Well, she's that's where she's from. I mean, that's her MO.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. So
I know what you're saying. Well,
it was interesting to me today to watch. By the way, I thought that Fiona Hill, she did a wonderful thing because she is nonpartisan mostly, and she was talking about how she's been, just rampaged and how it's horrible, whatever. And she said, and I feel for Stefanik, and then Stefanik is the next person to get the thing, and she starts going down, being totally partisan and being. And I tweet, was she scary?
Well, she is completely emblematic of the Republicans. She was George W. Bush White House official. She worked for these very hawkish anti-Russian think tanks. And as soon as she gets there, she's, carrying Trump's water.
Ugh, she is absolutely appalling. And I say that as an American. I say that as an independent. This is what has to stop. And I don't know how you stop it unless you get rid of the Federalist Society, which is another one of my, I want to go down that road at some point with you because I think that they are dangerous. Who was the guy who was in Leesburg, Virginia, 30 years ago? Remember the right-wing wackadoodle?
Like Terry Dolan or somebody?
No. Oh, God. He was hard. He was absolutely hard. They finally shut him down.
Shut down.
He was shut down.
Vigory?
No. I can't think of his name. Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. Maybe I'll think of it before we're finished. It's on that. The Federal Society has gone so far to the right at this point. It's gone on crazy.
In any event, I don't...
I know you don't agree.
No, you can't shut these things down.
Well, but you know what I'm saying. You can start picking on them and pick like like a black bird and pick, and that's all that you can do. But these people are, to my mind, are what is making this country the way that it is. And as left wing as the Dems can get, they're not the equivalent of the right wing.
No, they're not. They're not in the same.
They don't have the kill factor in them that these right wingers have.
No.
Let's talk about some of these people. What do you think of Sunderland?
Well, I confess to finding him rather appealing. I thought he was. He reminded me of a fair number of people I know. He's. I think he did the most to undermine Trump in the White House because he is a Trump appointee. I mean, everybody else was either career or NSC establishment like Hill, but this was a big, rich Republican donor and a quasi buddy of Trump, and he basically laid it out, which is there was this quid pro quo. You trash the Bidens, I'll get you your missiles. So I thought, even though he'd been a reluctant witness, even though he'd been a flawed witness because he changed his story a couple times, I still think he was the most effective witness. And
he's charming.
And he had a rather appealing demeanor. People are making fun of his $55,000 watch and other aspects to him, but.
Good sense of humor.
At the end of the day, he was not going to perjure himself for Donald Trump. He's not going to, he's not going to do a Roger Stone. He's a rich, happy guy. He's not going to spend his last years in federal prison for this dope. And so, he told the story I believe when he finally got around to telling it, it was basically as it happened, and it wasn't pretty.
No, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. I thought he was terrific too, and
so I thought he did quite well. It's really interesting.
The other one I want to talk. I suppose we could talk about them all, but the one Colonel Vindman. And I'm going to say something that you might find a little crazy. We're going to talk in a few minutes about the fact that Bibi Netanyahu has been indicted, but scary to me. It was scary to me that Fiona today had to talk about the elders of Zion. I mean, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Sunderland's Jewish, Vindman's Jewish.
Well, right.
There are a lot of Jews out front there at a time when it's really, really, really scary to be Jewish and be out there.
No, I mean, a lot of analogies to the Dreyfus case.
Right.
In 19th century France.
It's scary to me that the Republicans went down playing the old, dual nationality, loyalty thing. A couple of days, by the way, after the Trump administration said that the settlements in Israel were legal, I almost feel like that they did that for two reasons. One was to help Bibi, and because of, they were getting to who was going to, if they could get form a coalition government. But the other one was because they knew this was going to come, and they were going to go after Vindman, and they needed to make Bibi happy in order to be able to do it. That crossed my mind at the time that vote went
right
down. And I don't know if that crossed your mind, but yikes. But seriously, that was not pretty, and I just don't understand what's going on in the Republican Party with this.
With you mean flirting with anti-Semitism?
Yeah,
is that
constant at the same time that they're helping Israel?
Well, I just think
Does it not make you nervous?
I think they're slightly unaware of the anti-Semitic implications of it. I think they're just grabbing everything they can.
Oh, you're too kind.
I mean, look? I don't know. I can't know. But look, I think if you're, I thought of two other sort of national security cases that are famous with kind of Jewish Americans at the center, Jews at the center. The one is the Dreyfus affair, as I mentioned before. For those who don't know, it was a 19th century case in which, Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer in the French military, was court-martialed and executed on charges that were trumped up and that were clearly trumped up at the time, later proven to be, and championed. His case was championed by famous author Emile Zola, who would go on to win the Nobel Prize, among other things. That sort of galvanized the issue of anti-Semitism in France. And, I couldn't help but think of, the McCarthy era, where you had, Roy Cohn on the other side, persecuting some people who were guilty of being communists, some people who were guilty of espionage, and a whole lot of people who weren't guilty of either. And, it was deeply, I thought Vindman put on an excellent, testimony. I thought Hill had some interesting comments about him today. And, look, he's Trump and company trashed a Gold Star mother during the 2016 convention. At this point, of course they're going to trash him too.
You just made my point, by the way, which I was trying to make a few minutes before, which is I don't see how the Dems beat this because they just aren't that kind of bloody. They won't go for the blood.
Yes, I believe if Barack Obama's election in 2008 had been aided by Russia, and then he'd continue to carry on in Russia's favor and cut the balls off Ukraine to help Russia. Yeah, I think the Republicans could make something of it.
Yeah, I mean, so there it is. You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. So as of the people who did testify this week, was there anybody else you wanted to talk to before I bring up something else I want to talk about?
Well, Sondland, I thought very impressive. I thought, as a general matter, I don't think people fully appreciate, even people who are kind of Democrats and pro-government, appreciate the level of kind of like expertise and intelligence of so many people who serve the federal government. They just think of kind of bureaucrats. Right. But, you have people with enormous, there are, obviously, lower level jobs in the federal government that don't require this level of expertise. But you've got some extraordinarily knowledgeable, accomplished people who make their career in government. And this was kind of a window into that I don't think people always see, that you've got people who are, choosing to do this with their lives and were the better for it, not just because they're whistleblowers or bringing to light nefarious activities, but also because of their just everyday service. So I think in a way it was kind of a lesson about that.
It was illustrative. I mean, no question about it. I'm sure a lot of Americans would have had no
Michael
idea.
Lewis's, right. Michael Lewis's latest book, The Fifth Risk, is all about this. And, the extraordinary nuclear experts at the Department of Energy, the scientists at there. And, I think they're extraordinarily talented people who work for government and honorable people. And, this was an illustration of that.
They never quite get their due. They never get their due. So it's a good thing. Yeah, but it's going to make a great movie, and I'll bet that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to finally
Yes. Now, I thought Hill made an interesting point about Vindman, which was sort of like, we liked him. I wasn't down on him as an employee. I just thought he had no political sense. And that sort of made sense, like that, Vindman was sort of...
There was a naivete to him.
Yeah, there was a naivete to him, which is, not not disparaging of him, but
no, just it was his style, right?
It rounded out the portrait of him. I thought the others this week. I thought the one who works for the vice president. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her
Jennifer
name.
Williams.
Jennifer Williams is very impressive. I think clearly was a Condi Rice acolyte, as she said in her opening testimony, that Condi Rice was her hero, and clearly, kind of an impressive figure.
Very impressive, very straightforward, very not. You couldn't move her off of her. She wasn't taking anybody's bait who was going after her. I thought she was terrific too.
And look, they all told the same story.
I know that's the part.
That's the thing. Like they all,
it's like there's no argument as to what happened.
There was clearly a totally alternate channel that the president had going regarding Ukraine to get the Bidens. I mean, there's no other story they told.
So a couple of things that I want to ask you about, and that is, we know that. Okay. That's the story. There it is. There's no getting around it, right? There is this problem with Russia, however. As Dr. Hill so brilliantly said today, you're going down this Ukraine conspiracy is actually dangerous. Not just to Ukraine,
fictional,
right. but it's also it's given Putin his finest hour, and it's exactly what he wants, and it's getting us off the main mark. There's a lot of legislation that the Democrats and the House has put up about stopping election meddling by the Russians, and the irony of this is that McConnell is sitting on it and refuses to move the legislation. I mean, hello. That point not made during these hearings.
No, not at all.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. It's tied in. It's all tied together. It was silly not to attack the hell out of McConnell in all of this. I just have to say. Here's the other thing I wanted to talk about very quickly, and that is the fact that it does appear that the vice president knew it. So now what?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you could, if you're going to have additional hearings, that would seem to be a good topic.
Hello, again, and not enough made of that, and I think that's pretty powerful.
The vice president can be impeached, if you want to go down that road.
I mean, maybe he's the sacrificial lamb. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I do think it's worth talking about the fact that he knew it. Which I've been saying all along. I mean, I don't
he
see how
seems like a guy who'd be into everything anyway. So, especially since he was supposed to go to Ukraine. So, how could he not know?
I know. He comes out always clean as a whistle, and I'm telling you, he is as dirty as they come. That's my opinion of him.
No, I think he was clearly aware of all the issues about Zelensky and whether they were going to meet with him, whether he was going to get what he wanted. It seems clear that Perry knew that. And, they just, the president wanted this, and nobody would really get up in his face and say no, except for the whistleblowers. But no one at the political level would really do that. Sondland was kind of doing it. I mean, Sondland was trying to slow walk it.
Well, he didn't want to. He was trying to walk the center line, is what he. And he still is, by the way.
He just kind of figured, if we can get the Zelensky-Trump meeting, it's going to be okay.
It's just very strange. We got to move on.
Yeah.
Mulvaney, Pompeo, Bolton, Perry.
Well, I would separate Bolton from the others. I mean,
Bolton is certainly in a class all of his own. There's no question about that. Whether he, they're trying to shame him now into making an appearance. I don't.
Well, he's going to trash Trump in this book.
Yeah, so he wants to get paid $1 million, but screw the country.
Well, I don't think we know yet what he's going to do. I think he doesn't want to be seen as helping the Dems. He's a super right-wing guy who thinks he has a future in diplomacy and government politics and whatever. He's probably still harbors a fantasy he can become president when the dust clears. So he's playing a long game here. I agree. But he clearly thought that, as we can tell from Hill and everyone else, and his own comments a couple of weeks ago, he was horrified by the Giuliani mess. And, as one of the few of these guys who's actually competent, I mean, you may not like him, but he knows where the bodies are buried, and he has a Cheney-esque understanding of the bureaucracy. Yeah. He knew what they were doing. He knew all the ways in which it violated norms and laws. And, we'll see how loudly he screams about it, either before this, either in hearings or the trial, or the impeachment, or in his book. At some point, he's going to let out more of this. How he does it, I think, is going to be fascinating. Now, the others, Pompeo and Mulvaney, I mean, they were just, they were quislings going along with all this. I mean, Mulvaney especially is a poodle, is a lickspittle, whatever you want to call him.
I love the word lickspittle, by the way.
Toady.
Yeah, I mean, really, right?
Toady.
Yeah, they're all lickers. I call them the lickers.
I mean, he's just a toady.
Yeah,
I mean, Pompeo's got a little, tough guy bombast, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really push back on the president, as far as we can tell.
Well, here's something that the Dems could do, and going back to the beginning of this conversation when I said, what are they going to do? They can bring these guys and destroy these guys and say, you come clean, you talk about this, you do whatever, you put the muscle on, or you are going to be trashed. We're bringing you up on charges. There is that.
Well, they can't charge
Not charging them, but meaning they can bring them up and put them under trial and
well, they can't put them on trial.
Yeah, they can. What do you mean they can't? If they have goods on
trial.
I mean, they can't trial.
You mean contempt?
Contempt of court, contempt of Congress. I mean, there are a lot of things that they can do. Bring them up to have to testify.
Well, they can't put them on contempt of court. The Justice Department maybe could do that.
Well, there is no Justice Department.
Right.
So the Bar Department. I'm just saying that I think that they can use them in ways to pressure, them to come forward maybe a little bit better. Or Mulvaney is an interesting character. I don't think you can do anything to Mulvaney because I think he's just bought, owned, and he's ideologically.
Can you get them to testify? I don't think you can.
Well, you can move them inside. I mean, come on, they've got committees, and they're owned by the Democrats. There's no committee that they can find a reason to bring Pompeo up to talk.
No, they can. They absolutely can subpoena them. It's tougher to get the chief of staff than the secretary of state.
I mean, he's acting chief of staff, right? He's not chief of staff.
Well, it's tough to get anyone in the West Wing to go up and testify.
And why aren't they arresting them if they're getting subpoenaed? They do have the option to arrest them. They do have that, Matt. If you're in contempt, arrest one of these people. Yeah. Well, no one's done it in 80 years, but yes, you could. What? You can't. Well, they'd have to be on the Hill. I mean, you're not going to send the Capitol Police onto the White House grounds. This is what I'm saying to see you. You're of that school. You're so wonderful and polite and darling. No, I'm not being polite. I just don't. There's no reason in the world that you can't do it. It's been done before. Why you can't do it? This is what I'm saying. The Dems don't. Even if you wanted to do it, they have to be physically on the Capitol grounds. So what? So you seduce something to the Capitol grounds. They don't know what's going on. So you're big into seduce tonight. Looks like the fourth time you've said that. I've been on too much TV. We do seducing the Republicans, which is like an oxymoron, and then they're going to lure Pompeo up in the night with a hooker. I don't know. Can I just? We were talking about that, and this is so off the mark, and this is so unprofessional. But it's so funny because I was talking to somebody both of us know the other day, saying, "Can you think of one sexy Republican male?" They're just not. Some people think Mitt's hot. No. Wooden. No. That's the point. No. There are none. Will Hurd? I don't know. No, honey, trust me on this. Trust me. There must be sexy Republicans. Little Marco Rubio? Awful. Just such a wimp. How about Jim? You want me to throw out Jim Jordan? How about Giuliani? Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's go to Devin Nunes. You're talking sexy with his slick back hair. I think Tom Cotton's. Tom Cotton. Josh Hawley. No, there are none. There are none. Adam Schiff is least cute. You know what I'm saying? He's got a certain. We were talking about this, saying don't be a Republican. You have absolutely no sexuality whatsoever. It's gone. It's like
I'm
Biden. He's 74 years old or 76 years old. He is sexy.
I'm gonna have to think about this. I'm not sure I'm with you on it, but I'm gonna think about it.
Well, trust a woman on this one, honey. Unless there's something about you I don't know. But going back, I want to talk about Nunez and the fact that it appears that this Lev Parnason was funding him or doing. What was that about?
Well, Lev was arrested.
No, I know what happened to him, but he was funding Nunez, and he was doing work overseas for Nunez now.
I seem to recall that, but I've lost track.
Yeah,
of that
well,
strand.
let's just throw that out, and we'll just leave that strand there, let it hang, and we'll go back to that next week because I don't want to go to the debate. I just want to say very quickly about the debate, Matt, which it was a bad timing. Everybody was exhausted after the hearings. It was like, oh my God, and plus they're getting old already. Same old. But I wanted, sure, we can talk about Kamala and Tulsi. She went after her. That's not the first time. Okay, we can talk about Warren and health, wealth. We know what she is. I want to tell you that Bernie's hair never looked better. Heart attacks are good for the hair. I thought
the same thing.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I thought the hair was good.
Okay. We can talk about the fact that there was a problem with Klobuchar shaking, which I haven't been able to find an answer about. That was a little weird. I noticed that she was shaking. I sent you an email last night, and then I got a phone call, and I couldn't get back to you, with a picture of Michael Dukakis, because what I was trying to say is that Buttigieg could be his son.
Oh, the Buttigieg looked like Dukakis.
See, and I got worried. I'm worried about that, because if Buttigieg gets through, he has that same impish quality that Michael Dukakis got, that he got killed because he was on the tank with the funny helmet and yada, yada. And I'm looking at Buttigieg, I'm going, Trump would do that to him. Oh, that's not a good one. I want to go to Biden's defense in the brief time we have here. Something came out. It's not new information, but it did surface. And that Biden suffered horribly from a stutter as a child.
Right.
And he has somewhat overcome it. Now, I've done stories on people about stuttering over my long career. And understand that it's never really something that you master. You learn a new timing language in how you learn to deliver your speech. And it's never foolproof, because under certain circumstances, nerves can throw that off, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what happens to him sometimes on some nights at some of these debates. And I want to make the point, and maybe they're listening, somebody from his team, that they ought to make this an issue, and a good issue, because there are so many Americans who suffer from stuttering. And he shouldn't try and hide it. He should bring it out and explain it. Because the brain is fully there, Matt. And the things that he wants to say and means to say are always in the right thing. He just stumbles over his own words, but I think it's because of the stutter. I just wanted to throw that out and wondered what you thought about that.
Well, I think that overcoming stuttering story is one he should touch on. It's quite moving, and I think when he spoke to a voter or constituent or somebody the other day who had stuttering issues and talked to them, and it was quite moving. So I don't see any reason he shouldn't talk about it. You don't want to try to invite sympathy. That's the line you definitely don't want to do.
Well, I don't think you have to. I'm not.
You don't want to say I have an ailment and I may, I might say Korea, but I really mean Japan. You want to.
There's a way to do it.
You want to do it. I think I agree with you. Look, whenever you have a connection with a disability that a lot of people have dealt with, if it's stuttering, if it's diabetes, if it's whatever, cancer. I think that really does connect with people.
Yeah, and I think there's a way to do it with strength.
Yeah, I thought he had a pretty good debate.
I do too. Other than that, he got caught on that one line, and
Yeah, they made it. I mean, look, there was a lot of yelping about that on the debate stage, but it really wasn't a bad line. His closing was pretty good, I thought.
Well, it was his typical closing kind of thing. But here's the thing about him.
Story.
Yeah,
and he was good on the Saudi Arabia. I mean, just generally, I thought he projected pretty well, and
Yeah. Anybody else you wanted to talk about on that debate stage?
I was surprised they didn't go harder after Buttigieg.
I was too.
As the front runner. I thought maybe, they go after his Norwegian heritage or something. they would do something to sort of like, about the toughest thing was like you lost your statewide race. I thought he did fine. He didn't, gain any ground, didn't lose any ground. Buttigieg, I thought it's probably Booker's best performance overall.
Oh, he does,
but for whatever reason, it's not moving it.
Because he doesn't do anything. You know why? Because he's not sincere. I thought about it all day. He lacks sincerity. He's smart. He's even sometimes clever. He's got a certain funny when he wants to. He has all of that stuff. But he never comes across as authentic. He comes across as the sell. By the way, which is Klobuchar's problem, too. Because as smart as she is and everybody loves her, you always know she's going to get to and go to amyklobuchar.com. Do you know what I'm saying? That's you cannot manufacture authenticity. You cannot do it. And a lot of these people, they've overprogrammed, make sure you say this, make sure you do that, make sure you go. And that I actually think that what's his name is over. They're overdoing him. They're over controlling him.
Pete.
Who? No, not Pete. Pete's fine.
Corey.
I think Corey is being overmanaged. And I think Klobuchar, because she is not an extrovert naturally. You can tell that she has to push herself to get out there and play that game. That's their problem. That's why they're not rising to the top. I also want to say real quickly, can I? And then I'll get back to you. I think Warren's toast. Okay, next. I know you're not going to leave me lit. I think she's finished. I think that Obama saying move to the center finished her.
Could be.
Thank you.
That's our weekly. Could be.
I don't know if you have a thought on that or not. But
only in that I don't. The more I know, the less I know. I just don't know where this is going to end up. I agree. I think there's something to that about Obama. I think did sort of tap the brakes on the Warren movement. I thought Bernie looked not only did he have a good haircut, I just thought he was quite good last night. I thought he was, I thought high on the sincerity lever, kind of funny at times.
Not screaming.
Stayed the course, loud but not screaming. Right. I thought he was quite
measured for him.
Quite good. I actually thought, I know the conventional wisdom is, he's going to lose all his steam and it's over. And, he could come in second in Iowa and go into New Hampshire with a lot of mo. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm not saying he's going to be the nominee. I don't think
he's not. Of course not.
But I think he's in. I thought he did pretty well. So
Isn't
I was
it sad about Kamala, in a way, because she.
Well, I think she.
She looks like she should. She just.
I think she's got the demeanor. I think the problem is she didn't want to run as a tough cop. She wanted to run. I think she wanted to run as a more woke type, and she never got her woke ratio, her tough cop to woke ratio quite right, and so she never quite got her footing. I mean, maybe there's with a month left she can come back, but I don't think she will.
No, I don't think she will either.
And it's too bad because she could have been everybody's compromise, like left enough for the Warren people and reasonable enough for everyone else. And
there's a certain too young about
attractive,
her.
And yet she's not. She's older than Booker.
I know, but you know what? She's too young. She's too young, and young
she's
is about
54.
Yeah, young is heart though. Young is about she's girlish. There's a certain girlishness.
There is
her.
A certain girlishness.
And it doesn't. It doesn't work. And that's why when I said today, if only that Fiona Hill to me, forgive me, but this woman Dr. Hill was one of the most impressive people I think I have seen on the stage of politics in 25 years. Since
run, Fiona, run.
Well, she can't run, right? She's a naturalist.
Get her a Senate race.
Well, get her something. This woman was so impressive today. And when you put her up against the crap that people are electing who are up there with her, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Right.
You say to yourself, well, this is who we really are, except she's like a Brit import. So it's not who we really are, but.
Yeah, but we're all Anglophiles. So
I mean, right. I have to tell you, Matt, she blew me away. Oh, she blew me away. I haven't been that blown away in a long time by anybody. So there you go. We got to move on, and I do want to talk about Netanyahu's indictment. Just a little bit. Fraud, bribery, breach of trust. He says that he won't step down, and he says it's a coup. Gee, I wonder where he got that language. Interesting. I want to tell you that they did it today, and of course, yesterday was when they blew up the coalition that neither Blue and White or Bibi could get a coalition. And so they came in the next day. They are going back and talk about going into old laws. They're going into an old law that says that the Knesset could pick the person. That hasn't been used in 60 of the 70 years or so of Israel's whatever. And this cop hates him so much. He brought down the hatchet today because, he's hoping.
Yeah, serious charges.
Well, I don't think that they are serious. I think that it's all. I think this guy's been in office.
I mean, these are charges that have long sentences.
Yes, exactly. But I get that. But I'm saying to you, this is a man who's been in office and been pretty clean, squeaky clean for how many years? 30 years. He's been up there on the top of Israeli politics, and how many years as the prime minister?
Charges and rumors have daunted him for a long time.
Well, they daunt who don't they daunt? If it's not a sex thing like Clinton, then it's going to be, he's bribing, foreign. I mean, the politicians. I get that. I just thought that the timing of it today was pretty disgusting. And I haven't had a chance, but I talked to one American friend who's very big on the Israel thing, who agreed with me that it was suspect today.
Well, it would have been more suspect before the election, right?
Well, I think that they could have waited. Well, it went on longer than they thought, and it still may go into a third round of elections. So
right?
The guy was getting
right. But I mean, if he's, I know what you're saying, but if he sat on it, while
he could have done it last week.
The government amended it.
He could have done it last week. He didn't do it last week.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear you.
All right. I think I want to talk to a little bit of a lightning thing going on, and that's lightning round. Collins and Romney and a whole bunch of Republicans met up on the Hill today. They came out of there saying, we really talked about impeachment for about 2 seconds. However, right before we went on air, I don't know if you saw this, but the Republicans say that they're talking 2 full weeks of hearings if it goes to the Senate. So I think that's what they were all there discussing. Kind of thing. But I want to talk about Ken Starr. Did you see what Ken Starr did yesterday?
I saw it was in the headlines, but I didn't read the story. What happened?
So as soon as Sondland's testimony was just about over, he went to town and he said, "Oh my God, they could go to this." He gave them enough for the Republicans to go to Trump and ask him to resign.
Well, that's refreshing.
And then he's walked it back a little bit, but that was his initial thing, and that's what he said.
I mean, he between the impeachment and his managing to get fired as president of Baylor,
that was pretty bad.
his stock is pretty low.
Not with Republicans.
Is it really that high with Republicans? He's not too Bush and too.
Nope, he's still high.
Me Too and too.
Yeah, I understand. Nope, he's still a go-to guy. That's who they always go to in the last couple of months.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, for TV bookers, but really for if you're just some dude in the House who got elected in 2010.
No, they wouldn't be quoting him all the time.
Really? If you're just
I see him. By the way, I see him on CNN sometimes.
Well, that's why I think the bookers like him. But
no, not the bookers. I'm saying no. I think he has a certain way still. Look, you could say the same thing about Liz Cheney. I mean, she's she's the green apple to the daddy, but there's still a wing of the Republican Party.
Well, she's in the House leadership. I mean, she's rising.
but she's.
I know what you're saying. I'm just.
So it's the same way. I mean, these are holdovers. But I thought it was interesting that he said that,
it's
and I think it's certainly worth.
If he's not, any time one of these guys is not totally mouthing talking points,
right? You gotta.
It's moderately interesting. I mean, because there's there's no space between Hannity and.
Oh, well, that's get me on him and whatever. Okay, before I give my closing, is something you need to throw out here? By the way, I was right about last week. I did say, what did I say at the end? I said it looks like the Barr is going to make some trouble about all of this. He is. They announced today that whole thing with the investigation into the deep state is coming.
Oh yeah,
and they're going to have a hearing. Said Miss Lindsay, who has said absolutely nothing about the hearings in the last few days, have gone completely silent. In case you hadn't noticed, did tweet out, yes, we are going to have hearings on that. So I think Barr is up to no good with that. Anything you got?
Well, Barr is so antediluvian. He's the first AG in decades who's really tried to get the federal death penalty going again. I mean, there's only been one federal execution in decades, and that was Tim McVeigh for the Oklahoma City bombing. But he's trying to get it going on a whole bunch of fronts. He got thwarted in the courts last night. I mean, he's not okay. He's a barrel of laughs, this one. I thought we would miss Jeff Sessions.
Well, you may get him back in an odd way. I mean, it's not.
You may get him back.
Yeah, which is good for Saturday Night Live, and it's about it because he's an idiot. But I mean,
he's looking like Averell Harriman compared to the rest of them.
Oh my God, it's like whatever. So anyway, so do you have any words of what we should be looking for the next week or so, or what? Anything, or you're just like?
It's Thanksgiving. Don't look for much.
Don't look for much. Okay. Well, my part on this. I don't think we got to because it happened after we went off air. But Roger Stone was found guilty on 7 charges.
Right. When that was earlier in the week, right?
Right, but we didn't get to it last week because it happened.
We didn't get to it last week. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I just wanted to bring it up very quickly because, I mean, it was that was hanging out there for people like Sunderland and whatever.
Yeah. Well, is he going to get pardoned? Is Trump ballsy enough to just pardon him now? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he would have done that. But here's what I want to say about it. And so I'll leave on a high note. Richard Nixon's finally going to the hooky. Riding on the back of Roger Stone.
Good point. All right.
What is that noise?
Sorry, I don't know.
I want to know what that is.
I was shifting in my seat a little.
Is that what you do? You shift in your seat?
Once in a while.
Okay, my love, it's been wonderful. I'll talk to you next week.
Always wonderful. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.